My Husband's Ex. Episode 2. Brad almost suffocated Kelly after he was told about how things had gone wrong in the process of the abortion, and how that her womb had some perforations that would make her chances of ever carrying a pregnancy to full term afterwards very slim, if not impossible. How could you do this to me, Kelly? How could you not know that this girl is someone you couldn't have been careless with? How could you shatter my world like this, Kelly? How could you hurt me this badly, Kelly? Brad cried helplessly. His friend took time to explain what had happened and how the accident occurred. I still can't get it. I just can't imagine how I got here. If only I had known, if only I had imagined that it could turn out like this. But why did it have to be the one that matters the most to me that had to go this way? You have been attending to my numerous girlfriends before without issues. Why did you have to do this? Brad lamented inconsolably. Brad, this is entirely not my fault. I don't know how to explain this, but this is one of the common complications that can arise from an abortion of this nature. I do not like the fact that it happened this way, but I needed to help you, Kelly told his friend. Don't be ridiculous, Kelly. What kind of help can you render me after you have carelessly let things go south with the procedure? How can you help me when all you have done is hurt me so irredeemably? Brad complained. Ordinarily, Brad, if I didn't tell you, there's no way on earth you would have known now that something had gone wrong, and you would have gone ahead to marry her. Now that's when I would have truly hurt you, my friend, Kelly told him. What do you mean I would have gone ahead to marry her? Are you imagining I'd be able to leave her? Kelly, I told you before, this is the only woman I have ever loved, and I must marry her, Brad told his friend. Brad, as your friend, I owe it to tell you the truth, and by virtue of my position as one who had carried out the procedure, I know it will be the biggest blunder for you to go ahead and marry that girl. Brad, you can't marry her. Love is not all that counts in the choice of a wife, my friend. So many factors must be considered when you get to the stage of choosing a wife. Aside the attraction that you two have for each other, you must consider important facts like medical conditions. For example, you know how your family is. If you marry her now, and she isn't able to conceive in record time, your aunt will be on your case, Kelly reminded him. That is true, Kelly, but how can I live without the one for whom my heart beats? This is the worst day of my life, Kelly. I should have forgotten about the inheritance. All these complications wouldn't have come up, Brad wailed. Well, Brad, you can really be with her for as long as you want, while you marry someone else who'd be your ceremonial wife. All you have to do is make her so happy she'd never wish to go away, even if you had to marry someone else. It's easy for you to come up with a story that will make it impossible for you two to get married. Think about culture, your aunt, anything. I can even give a medical report on which ground you can marry another on the excuse of medical incompatibility, Kelly offered, and Brad just got up and walked back to Sophia's room. He sat there looking as unhappy as he could be, waiting for Sophia to wake up. In spite of how ruffled he had been earlier, Kelly had been able to convince him on finding a way to present someone else to his aunt as wife. It was a bitter pill to swallow, but he had to agree with Kelly that making her his wife would mean more troubles for Sophia. He knew his aunt would be on their neck to have a child as soon as they get married, and the pressure and pain of trying to conceive when he knew she'd never be able to have a child of her own would be more agonizing than making her an everlasting side chick. Baby, are you okay? Brad asked, looking lovingly at Sophia as she stirred. He was placing a straying hair lock behind her left ear, as he spoke in the calmest of all voices. Sophia opened her eyes and saw Brad looking so worried. I'm okay, baby, just a little pain. You're looking too worried. Relax, baby. I'm not going to marry a corpse if you let your heart fail out of worry, she teased him, trying to lighten the atmosphere, even though she could still feel some pains. Brad tried to smile, but his heart wouldn't let him. He tried to speak, to tell her that he was worried because of something much bigger than they could handle, but he knew he couldn't tell her. She was soon discharged from the hospital, and Brad took her to his house. He had already taken precautions to tell her mother that she wouldn't be returning that day, so there was no worries about her absence from home that night. He made Sophia call her mother to ask how she was, and invariably let her know she was okay. That night, Sophia could see that Brad was troubled, and she had only attributed it to his concern for the pains she was having, so she had to act all tough to alleviate his worries. Brad held her close to him, telling her of how much she meant to him, and how he'd forever love her. "You're scaring me, Brad. I've come out from the theater already, and as you can see, everything went as planned. So you see, we have nothing to worry about again, as regards your aunt. We only have to wait and hope that my mum is able to get Sister Meg a husband as soon as possible. And we're good to go," Sophia told Brad happily. Although she felt bad that she had to do something as bad as putting an end to a live even before it was given the chance to live. She just had to shut her mind to the thought of how viciously she had connived with Brad to commit such evil. She didn't want to dwell on something that would make her see Brad in such a bad light that she would hate him. "I know he is even hurting more than I am, but he had to do what he had to do," she told herself. Brad looked lost in thought, and Sophia wondered if he heard what she had just said. "Brad," Sophia called softly. "Yes, baby, I was lost in thought a while ago. I've been imagining what I would have done if we weren't able to get rid of the pregnancy, and my aunt had made me marry another person," he told her, testing the waters. "Then you would have had 2 wives because this girl here will never leave you." "Yes, Brad, I won't ever be able to stay without you. And thankfully, we are surely going to end as man and wife because when I get home, I'm going to ensure that I get Mummy to hurry up with Sister Meg's marriage plans," she told him happily. "That's why I love you, baby. Come here," he told her, pulling her in for a hug. He was tired of seeing her face as she spoke with so much love and ignorance of the major mishap that had just happened. A mishap that would change her life forever. 2 days later, Brad was talking with Emily, the girl he had chosen to make his ceremonial wife. He needed to prepare her to meet his aunt. Emily had been crushing on Brad since they were in secondary school, and even though she knew Brad led a reckless lifestyle and didn't feel a thing for her, she was willing to keep pushing her luck, wishing that he'd someday decide to reciprocate her love for him. There had been times she had tried to force herself on him, doing so much to get him to sleep with her, and maybe start off a relationship, but he had ended up brushing her off. "Emily, I have told you before. I know you love me, but you must understand that the knowledge of that which you feel for me is the reason I don't want to get any closer to you. I play with girl, but I don't play with people's emotions. Those girls know that there's no strings attached to whatever we do, and that's why we're able to play and go. But I can't lead you on. I can't touch you, Emily, because I don't love you," he told her countless number of times. Emily was shocked to see Brad's call that day, and was more shocked to hear his proposal to marry her after she met him up in the restaurant he asked her to come to. "Brad, are you for real? You chose to be my man, not only for a few days but for a lifetime," Emily asked Brad in shock. They were sitting in a cozy restaurant Brad had taken her to. He ordered a super rich meal for them. It almost seemed they were going to host a huge party. He allowed them eat in silence, making her wonder what the big treat was for, before he asked her to marry him. "Yes, Emily. You may not know this, but I've always known that you'll be the one for me. The one I'll spend my days with and share my night time with. Please, Emily, don't make me have to woo you forever. Will you be my wife? Say yes, and we'd be walking down the aisle in a matter of days," Brad told a shocked Emily, holding out a ring. "Brad, don't get me wrong. You know I love you so much. I've always loved you, and will always love you. You told me clearly that you loved someone else. What changed?" she asked him, getting a little skeptical about the sudden proposal. Brad looked down, a frown on his face and his hands joggling the ring he had been holding out to her. "You know, I do not understand how women are wired. 1 minute you were falling all over me acting like you loved me, making me reserve you for marriage, and then I make my move, expecting you to see the love in my eyes and understand why I had to keep you pure and clean all these while. But you look at me with my ring and question me with so much doubts," he said, perfectly sounding like a love-sick man. Emily's heart began to beat wildly. So all these while I was troubling myself, thinking about how I can get him to love me, when in fact he had been saving me for the best. He didn't allow me become his girlfriend, because he was waiting for the right time to give me a ring. Emily thought excitedly. She looked at Brad, who had his head bent, and his ring being tossed pitifully in his hands. Brad, all my life I've dreamt, imagined and wished for this day to come. I only didn't know that the day will come, just for me to throw it away so carelessly. If only I can get you ask me again someday, she told him. Brad smiled knowingly. I know how to get women do my biddings for sure, he thought happily. He looked up, ensuring that his face bore a trace of excitement. Then he was kneeling the next minute. Please, Emily, marry me. Marry me, and make me the happiest man on earth. Please be my wife, and I'd be spending the rest of my days showing you how much I've loved how you've always loved me, Brad said, holding out the ring in his hand again. Yes, my love. Yes, Brad. I'll marry you today. I'll be happy I said yes. Even by tomorrow, and I'll forever be happy that I lived long enough to see the day you asked me to be your wife, Emily said with her hand stretched towards him. He slipped the ring into her index finger and hugged her happily. She returned the hug joyfully, hugging him tightly as tears of joy began to roll down her cheeks. Thank you, Brad. Thank you for loving me enough to help me preserve my innocence till now. If you had been bent on taking away my innocence for nothing, I would have lost it for nothing, because in my desperation to be beside you, I was willing to do anything. But you were disciplined enough to keep me from throwing myself at you when you weren't ready. I'm so grateful to God that even though you told me there wasn't a chance for us to be together, I persisted in waiting for you, so much so, I couldn't let anyone else into my life, Emily told him. I know, baby. For even though I was doing my best to stay away from you, to ensure you didn't have to do some of the bad things those other girls around me were doing, I was always watching out for you, and it has always kept my desire to marry you burning. You never messed around with your body, he told her, kissing her lightly on her left cheek. Emily and Brad spent another 1 hour talking about their supposed love for each other, and he made her agree to visit his aunt with him the following day. When he left her later that night, Brad was whistling happily and humming happy songs. Sophia was waiting for him in his house when he got home. He wrapped her in a warm hug, kissing her with so much happiness. How has my sweetheart been? Missed me as much as I have missed you? He asked her, looking at her with so much warmth. I'm good, baby. Mum and I had been talking since morning. She started asking some questions, sounding as if she knew what happened. I was so tired of listening to all the sermons she had for me about how I shouldn't do something wrong in desperation. Well, it's really not her fault. She thinks all men are the same and can betray a woman at any point. If only she knows that you love me enough to forget your inheritances just to be with me, she told Brad with a smile. But what did she say? Brad asked Sophia, beginning to feel uncomfortable with the fact that he was snooping behind the one he loves. Yet she trusted him with her all. She was talking about how she had been feeling uncomfortable since the day you told her I was going to pass the night here, and how she dreamt that something bad and irredeemable happened to me. You know how mothers are. Plus, my mother is always spiritual. I was almost worried with the way she was sounding. It was almost as if something had gone wrong with what we did. But baby, I'm glad it's all going to be okay, because by the time your aunt will ask for the pregnancy test, we'll be ready to row, Sophia said enthusiastically. Brad forced a smile, and because he knew his face could betray him at any point, he pulled her to himself in a hug. Come here, darling. I'm so happy that we'll be able to embark on this together forever journey, no matter what happens, he told her while kissing her intermittently on her cheeks and neckline. Sophia and Brad remained indoors that day, as they did so many days that followed. And even though Sophia had been hoping that he'd talk about going to see his aunt, he never mentioned it. Instead, they spent their time kissing and playing. And if her body hadn't been still hurting for the abortion, he would have been sleeping with her in his house, while Emily had been sent to his aunt for assessment and approval for marriage. What do you say your name is again? Brad's aunt asked Emily, looking as serious and grim as one who was conducting an interview for a very sensitive job position. "Emily James, ma'am," she replied calmly, sounding as serious as the stoic aunt was sounding. "Now, Emily, I need you to be sincere with the answer to this vital question. I want to be sure you're compatible with Brad before I go ahead to bless your union with him. Emily, the first time you went to bed with Brad, was it on the very day you met him, or sometime later? Also, the number of times you have been in bed with him, did you find him good enough?" she asked Emily, setting a huge trap for her. "I'm sorry if the truth is going to keep you from blessing my relationship with Brad, but I haven't had sex with Brad before. Brad and I have known each other for so long, but he had never made attempt to get in between my legs, because according to him, he wanted me to retain my innocence till the wedding night. So about that, ma'am, I really can't tell if we are compatible in bed. I have never gone to bed with any man, so maybe there's a chance that I may conform with his after we get married. Please give us a chance," Emily begged the stern-looking woman. A happy smile formed on Aunt Bianca's face. She had butterflies in her stomach as she listened to the sincere and decent-looking girl before her. She could hardly believe that someone as cool-headed and decent-looking showed up as Brad's choice for a wife. "Say no more, darling, for you have not only got my blessings, you have got my love. In this days of immorality, where young girls throw away their body for little gratifications, you have chosen to retain your chastity. I shall have the doctor take a look at you just to fulfill the promise I made my brother. But rest assured, dear, you have my blessings. Welcome to our family, Emily," she told Emily, hugging her with so much warmth. "Sophia, please sit down. I need to talk to you about something that has been bothering me for some days now." "Is there something you're not telling me, Sophia?" Mrs. Chike asked her daughter one night after Brad dropped her off. Sophia had been with Brad all day, and even though she was worried about the ways things were still going as regards their marriage plans, Brad was all over her, humping and bopping all day long. "I can't get enough of you, baby. My body wants you every minute of the day," Brad told her, as he kissed and touched her. "But baby, what are we going to do? What if my sister doesn't get married before the deadline? What are we going to do?" she asked him as she got off the bathtub. Brad had shrugged, and unlike his usual assurance of never marrying anyone else, he had told her that even if they couldn't end up together as man and wife, she was always going to have his heart. His response and body language left Sophia crying the remaining time she spent with him, and even though he did his best to keep her from crying, the tears kept flowing even up till the time he dropped her off at their house. "Mum, I don't know what you're saying, but I'm very tired and need to sleep now. Can we talk tomorrow?" Sophia asked her mother as she tried her best to ensure that her mother didn't get to see her face. She had been crying, and she knew that the moment her mother had a peek at her face, she'd be able to tell correctly that something was wrong. Mrs. Chike looked at her daughter again. Then she asked her a direct question. "Have you been crying, Sophia? Tell me, dear daughter, what is going on? Why don't you tell Mummy about it and see how she helps you resolve it?" Mrs. Chike persisted, trying to know what exactly was wrong with her daughter. "Mum, I've been talking with Brad about why he hadn't taken me to his aunt, and he told me it's because of our culture and how Sister Meg has remained unmarried even up till now. It's just a few days from the deadline he's been given to get married," Sophia told her mother, letting the tears begin to flow again. "If that's your worry, then you don't have to cry anymore, for God has answered our prayers. Your sister Meg brought a man who wants to marry her as soon as we can allow him, because he's on his way out of the country in a few days' time," her mother told her happily. Sophia turned to look at her mother in great shock and excitement. "Are you being serious, Mummy? Is it true what you're telling me?" Sophia asked her mother, wiping the tears on her face quickly. "Yes, Sophia, it's true what Mother has just told you. I'm getting married, and to a man who, though had been away for so long, couldn't forget me," Meg told her sister proudly as she walked in. "Oh, please be quiet, Meg. You're just lucky that your relationship with that young man is eventually ending this way. You went into a relationship with him, allowing him take away your innocence even when I had warned you about premarital sex, He left the shores of this country almost immediately after he had successfully gotten what he wanted from you. And just because fate agreed for you two to end as man and wife, you're here blabbing as if you've done so noble, being unable to keep yourself like your younger sister has done easily. Mrs. Chike berated Meg angrily. Mother, Zubby and I fell in love from the day we set eyes on each other. And yes, I failed to keep to the advice you gave on keeping my innocence till my wedding night because I was carried away by the sparks of passion between us. Mum, I told you myself that I had failed. I told you I had been deflowered, and you have never forgiven me for that. You made me look like an outcast, right in my parents' house, for that singular offense. And even though I have really not had any sexual relationship with anyone else since then, you have always assumed that every male I spoke to were having carnal knowledge of this broken girl. Well, Mother, I may not have turned out to be like Sophia. I may not have made you as proud as Sophia has done all these years. But I'm getting married to a man I love, and the one who loves me so much, he had to fly back at the news of me getting married off to just anyone available. To clear the way for your favorite daughter, Meg told her mother. Sophia didn't know whether to laugh or cry. So all these while, she had been castigating her sister, judging her so badly because according to their mother, she's a black sheep, not knowing that unlike her who had the ability to keep so many secrets, Meg was just open to their mother. Meg had gotten deflowered by the first love of her life, and because she felt she had failed her mother, she had confessed to her mother, willing to be scolded and paroled only to get pushed away by the one from whom she was meant to get comfort and guidance. Mom, this is good news. I'll go to my room now. I need to call Brad and inform him of the happy development. Congratulations, big sis, Sophia said and hurried off. She sat in her room shaking in regrets and untold guilt. She hated the fact that despite having done worse things than her sister, her mother considered her the best out of her children, and had even written her sister off. What will my mother think of me the day she finds out that not only did I get deflowered a long time ago, but that I have been having several sexual bouts with Brad, and one of those encounters had resulted to a pregnancy that I had brazenly terminated? Sophia thought, weeping in both shame and pains. She decided to call Brad with the good news the following morning, since she had cried herself to sleep the previous night, and hadn't been able to call him. I'll call you in a few minutes' time, baby. I'm with my aunt, he spoke in hushed tones into the phone receiver. Well, I think that's the more reason I need to come and meet you up immediately. You can introduce me to her now, baby. Because my sister Meg is getting married tomorrow, she told him excitedly. Damn it, she's getting married tomorrow? Oh God, why me? He said, confusing Sophia. Baby, I'm sorry, but you're confusing me. I expected you to be happy about this news, and not lament the way you're doing now, Sophia told him. See, babes, I'll explain to you as soon as I get out of here. The elders are already talking to her parents. I'll tell you everything once I'm out of here, he told her hurriedly, and hung up before she could say a word. What's going on? Since when did Brad consider anything more important than me that he had to hang up while I was still talking to him? What did he mean by her parents? Whose parents was he talking about? She wondered aloud. Well, I think I'd better go over to his house and wait for him. I do not know what his aunt wants from him this time, but I'm glad we'd be able to get married as soon as my sister gets off the way tomorrow, she told herself and prepared to head to his house. Sophia got to Brad's house and found her way in as usual. She was in the house playing computer games to keep her busy while she waited for Brad to return without actually knowing where he was and what he was doing. She found it worrisome that the number of times she called Brad, he declined the call, and messaged her to wait for him in her house. He'd come see her later that night. Sophia was calling repeatedly because she wanted to let him know that she was already waiting for him in his house, but he just wasn't picking the calls. What could have kept Brad so occupied all day that he didn't return till now? And to make matters worse, he only messages me and never takes my calls. I hope all is well with him, she wondered. She had just finished cooking his favorite meal and was about to call him again when the door started getting unlocked from outside. Sophia knew her man had just returned, and with all gladness, she went to the door to welcome him with the good news of her sister's marriage that would hold the next day. But as soon as the door opened, the smiles on Sophia's face vanished, getting replaced with a horrific frown. Brad was standing at the door with a girl who wore a matching traditional outfit with him. "Brad, what's going on? Who's this?" Sophia asked Brad, her head spinning rapidly. She was finding it hard to stand. Emily, who had been smiling with her fingers linked with Brad's, pulled her hand from his, and with a frown asked Brad what a girl was doing in the house. "It's okay, honey. Everything is under control," Brad told Emily, before he turned to look at Sophia, who was almost losing her mind as she stood there listening to Brad address a girl in her presence with such endearments. "Sophia, this is Emily, my wife. Honey, this is Sophia, my ex-girlfriend. She must have come here to pick the stuff she left. Trust me, she won't be bothering you ever again," he told Emily, doing his best to pacify her. Emily made to talk again, but he blocked her. "Say no more, honey. I know you're tired and need to rest your body to be ready to host your husband on your wedding night. I'll take you to the room immediately," Brad told Emily, and without waiting for her to say anything else, bent down, picked her up in his powerful arms and walked inside, leaving a speechless Sophia gaping at him with a wide-open mouth and tears-streaked face. Brad carried a shy Emily into their bedroom, and after telling her so many sweet things that could calm her nerves, made her promise she wouldn't come out until he had dealt with the intruder in their sitting room. "It's okay, darling. I'll wait here. You just be sure that she doesn't pull this kind of surprise on us ever again," she told him. "Think about it, honey. If she meant anything to me, wouldn't she be the one in this room with me as my wife? It's you I love, my wife, and I'm going to make sure that she doesn't bother our love ever again," he cajoled Emily some more. And when he had got her exactly where he wanted, he left her in the bedroom and rushed over to the sitting room to meet Sophia weeping. Brad already had tears in his eyes as he walked to her and knelt down in front of her instantly. "My love, the sunshine that keeps my heart flourishing, the gate to my heart, and the only one for whom I want to live. I can explain all these drama if you let me. Please just come with me," he told her, looking up at her from his kneeling position. "Brad, oh God, I'm dying today. Brad," Sophia called repeatedly between sobs. She could neither say what she wanted to say, nor ask him the questions that her heart held. She stood there crying, not knowing what to do or say. Then Brad got up and pulled her to himself, crying as if he was about to die. "Please, baby, come with me. I need to show you something," Brad told her, pulling her with him with her handbag already in his hand. She didn't know what to think, didn't know what to say or do. Her heart was just numb, and her legs moved when he pulled her, making her follow him until he pushed her into the front seat of his car. He quickly sent an SMS to Emily, telling her he was going out to get her something. Brad quickly sat behind the wheel, and he was soon driving her to a fancy hotel. He booked a luxury room and bundled her there. Sophia sat on the big bed looking at Brad as if she had lost her mind. Or maybe she had indeed lost her mind, for while she sat there with him rambling on about how his aunt had got him the wife and how she had forced him to wed the girl that day, she wasn't hearing a thing he was saying. She was simply staring into space, almost as if she was dumb. "Baby, are you listening to me? I said I'm sorry. I just didn't have control over the things that happened today. If only I had known that your sister would be married so soon, I would have fought my aunt's imposed wife. Please, baby, can you stop crying? You're breaking my heart. You know, more than anything else, I wanted us to end as official man and wife, but now, my aunt has made it that our together forever will have to remain unofficial forever," he told Sophia. "Brad, oh no, I can't believe this. I've got to be dreaming. Brad, you married someone else? Brad, you now belong to someone else." Sophia sobbed. "Stop it, Sophia. You know I'll forever be yours, whether my aunt forcefully makes another woman my official wife or not. You'll remain the only one who'll own my heart forever. Please, baby, stop crying and let's think of what to do together." We must work something out to ensure my aunt doesn't succeed in tearing us apart. Please, baby. You know I'll die if I have to live without you, Brad said, forcing tears out of his eyes. Sophia looked at him in confusion, seeing how he was hurting more than her, and began to cry some more. So what now? I degenerate to your side chick and scurry when your wife makes an appearance? You even told her I'm your ex, and that I won't be disturbing you two again. Sophia asked. Don't tell me you don't know all that was a show for my aunt. My aunt handpicked that girl for me. She'd always be giving feedback to her. It's just a few days before she hands over my inheritance to me. So I was just putting up the show to ensure she didn't get the excuse she's looking for. Come on, baby. Don't tell me you didn't know I was only acting back there. Sophia. So I'd suddenly find a wife overnight and love her so much that I carry her to the bedroom right in your presence? And if she was that important, why am I going to spend my wedding night with you instead of with her? He asked her. You're spending the night with me here? She asked him in surprise. What were you thinking? That I see you in this state and go back home when I know you won't be coming home again because of the new wife my aunt got me? A baby, is that how poorly you think of what this man feels for you? Is this what you feel for me? Brad asked Sophia, making her feel guilty. He continued talking to her, telling her why she needed to act as if she wasn't together with him whenever she ran into him and the new wife, and how she mustn't call him unless he called her, to ensure the new wife didn't know of their love affair. Brad, with all these conditions, haven't I become your side chick? Have I not suddenly lost you to her? The fact that you love me and not her regardless? And when my mother finds out you're married, how on earth do you think she'll allow me see you again? Sophia lamented. Now I'm beginning to get upset. How dare you call the woman I love a side chick? If there's anyone who's a side chick, it's the one who was imposed on me. Give me the chance to remain your man and see how I spoil you, making sure the only thing she has will be just my name, while you keep my heart forever. And as for your mother, Sophia, you're no longer a child. It's time you stood up for what you believe in. You know I love you, and you know we can't stay without each other. Make her know this, and she'll let us be. She can't control your life forever, baby. And if you choose to follow whatever decision she's bound to make against our relationship, then I'm going to hurt myself, because I can't stay without you. I want to kiss you in the morning and ride you all noon. I want to go to bed with you in my arms, and wake up in the morning with the brightness of our love, beaming brighter than the morning sun. Please, baby, don't think of leaving this man, for even as I speak to you, my body wants you like it has never done, he cajoled her, and he began to kiss her everywhere. Brad continued to kiss Sophia, who just remained motionless, but allowed him to kiss her, though. Some moments later, she was returning the kiss, and before long, she was allowing him toy her body and her dignity again. Sophia was still lying on the bed thinking of what to make out of her predicament when he reminded her to call her mother and inform her that she wasn't coming home that night. She thought of a convincing story to give her mum, and went on to make the call. Brad went into the bathroom to call Emily, and after speaking with her for some minutes, she was the one begging him to stay where he was till the next day. Please, darling, I won't want to become a widow the very day I got married. It's safer to stay back and be sure the robbers have been captured before you venture out. If I had known you were going as far as that dangerous neighborhood just to get me a gift, I would have insisted that you let it slide, Emily lamented. Damn, honey, how am I supposed to sleep this night when my alluring bride is lying all by herself on my big bed? On the night I'm supposed to make her a woman, Brad complained. Please, darling, if you love me, just pass the night in that place. Our marriage isn't a contract affair after all. We can consummate it at any time. You need to be alive to do that. Please promise you won't try to be a hero and attempt to come home tonight, Emily told Brad. Humph. I guess I have to try, he told her, sounding as if he was about to cry. That's my hubby. See you tomorrow, darling. Good night, Emily said and hung up. What do you think Brad is doing? Is he dribbling Sophia or Emily or both of them? What will you do if you were Sophia's mum and found out that your daughter has been so played that she ruined her life. Find out what happens next in the next episode. If you're new here, please click on the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell to get notified when I post the next episode. Don't forget to leave a comment to tell us what you think about girls like Sophia and men like Brad.